Good morning, John. Well, as I always say, here we are, another day of paradise, first day of the rest of my life. We're going to make it count this time. Over the years, we've had a good time here with our customers and our job. And we put a photograph of a young fisherman in the last newsletter that we put out. And there's a lot to be said in that photo other than this boy smiling with a huge fish. There's a lot of things that happened to make that photo available to the general public. And where did that fish come from? Well, it was a stocked fish. We have access to some beautiful stocked fish. Our club buys those. We put them in. That particular fish could have been a holdover from another year, and we get a lot of that. In the recent years, we've had a lot of rain. We've got a lot of holdover. The pendulum will swing the other way, and we will lose some fish that aren't within a distance of a good oxygenated water in the future. That could happen. It could happen this year. It might happen 2 years from now. We don't know. But it's nature, and everything is born and everything dies. It's the way the system works. So that photograph represented a lot. It said things like the stream was clean enough to have trout in it. This stream had huge trout in it. And I'd like to say on that part of this conversation, that's a cooperation between government and private groups. We put a lot of huge trout in. That particular trout, I shouldn't say that. I don't know that particular trout was just stocked this year. It wasn't caught in the project. It was caught a distance away. But the good news is they cost around a little over $22 a piece when you start getting fish from 19 through 24 inches. With that type of, the fins, if you notice, the fins were absolutely perfect. The adipose fin was red, the belly was yellow. That was just a beautiful, beautiful fish. With a young man holding that with smiles from ear to ear. So that happened because of cooperation between the Fish Commission and a private group. You and the supporters of this club paid for those fish, and we so far this year put $18,000 worth in. We will put more in this fall. This is a continuing effort, spring and fall. Now the fall stockings are not near as heavy as the spring stockings. It's kind of interesting. When we came up with this idea, there was resistance to it, and it was fairly organized. But in the end, I think there were just over 50 written responses that were against it, but well over 1,000 in support of it. That says a lot about the general fishing public, what they're interested in doing. And we pulled this off, and again, it was cooperation between the Fish Commission and private groups and the fishermen themselves who were putting up the money. Not only do they buy fishing licenses, they come in here and they donate another $25,000 a year. It's very interesting. So when you look in that photograph and that young man's eyes, and this week you will see a couple of young people that have caught these large fish and returned them. And if you look at the smiles on their faces, they'll more than likely be fishermen the rest of their lives, and that's a wonderful thing. If you remember, some of you may not be familiar, in the 80s we lost most of our aquatic hatches below Babbs Creek on Pine Creek. A wonderful guy, Bob McCullough, established a group, and a lot of people laughed at Bob. And he told me, he said, I'm going to bring the aquatic insects back to Pine Creek. Well, Bob did that. And so what we're doing today wouldn't be possible without people like Bob McCullough and all of the other people who are in the background to promote and push this, what we've accomplished here. So we've had a great thing. We've got the hatches are back, the fish. We have tremendous looking fish, and the Fish Commission can't afford to raise a 5-year-old trout to stock so we can go out and catch fish like this. That's unrealistic, especially considering, I think a license today with the trout stamp is like $32.80. We pay $22 for these trout. So it's really unrealistic to think that the Fish Commission could accomplish this on the amount of money that they take in on license sales. And they have a lot of other people that they have to satisfy. They have the warm water fishery, the cold water fisheries, and a lot of other responsibilities, whether it's canoeing and kayaking and safety and so on. So this has been a great thing. I was having dinner the other night, and a gentleman came up and he was talking about the fish, and he was rather adamant that he does not fish the project. And he repeated that 3 times in only a couple sentences, and he wanted me to understand that he does not fish the project. These fish move. I don't have to have transmitters on it. We put them in. I get reports here. We get daily updates. Are the lengths of the fish accurate on the reports I get? No, probably not. And are the numbers? No, probably not. But we know where these fish are. And they go upstream, they go downstream. I think the large majority drift downstream. And I get tremendous reports all the way from below Camel, actually, of these large brown trout. So the program works extremely well. And when you're catching these big fish out of the project, it's the project that is supplying these fish. I had the doctor that ran the fisheries school in Mansfield. This was quite a while back. And he told me that he electroshocks at the base of the dam at Gailton every year, and it's full of big brown trout. The interesting thing, he told me, he said, I'm sure they're your trout that you have stocked, and it probably takes 2.5 years for them to make the journey up to that point. And of course, at that point, they can't get around the dam breast. But the fact is, all of these don't die. They do scatter out into the water. Other waters in the watershed. Some go up Slate Run. That may be, some people dislike that because these stocked fish have gotten into the run. Well, if you're fishing for brown trout, they're all stocked fish. We have native fish, and that's wonderful. But the fact is, we have the brown trout, and they maneuver. They go all over the place. So support the club. The club needs your support. It creates a wonderful fishery. And remember, the club's goal was not to provide a great trout fishery. Its goal was to provide a world-class trout fishing experience on public water open to the general public at no fee. That's the mission of the 501c3 organization that we have. We're not saying that this is a wonderful trout fishery, but it's an incredible trout fishing experience. It's a world-class experience. There's very few places you can go on public water and catch this quality of fish throughout. Well, you probably won't in July and August, but many of them hold. We have some wonderful seepages where we have cold water. These fish do survive. We catch them in the fall. And you know, if one dies of lack of oxygen or whatever, everything dies. So we don't need to get rid of it before that time period. When it's time and fish dies from old age or an eagle grabbing him or not, whatever. At least he's not in a freezer somewhere. So that provides a wonderful experience for people. We're proud to be part of it. And all of the people, I get continuing comments on my email, how people love this project. But when you look in the faces of these young fishermen that are catching these beautiful fish, just try to remember your first fish that you caught. Jed and I, and most of you know Jed, who works here in the shop with us, Jed and I were in when this young man came in, and we told him we had 150 years of fishing experience and never caught a trout like that. We've been all over the world fishing. So, you know, this is a great project. And again, it's a cooperative agreement between government and private groups, and it just simply works very well. So support it. We need your support. We need around $25,000 a year to pull this off. So keep supporting it and enjoy it. And do the fish stay in the project? No, we knew they wouldn't stay in the project, but a lot do. Probably less than half of them end up staying in the project. Some go up, some go down. Some hang in here and go up Slate Run in the summer. I'm sure you catch them up Cedar Run also. So, you know, fish swim. That's the way it works. They've got fins, they migrate, they go to where the water conditions suit them. So have a great time fishing for these, and remember, we need your support to keep it going. But it's not just us. There's a lot behind these photographs of these young people with these beautiful fish. So keep up the support, and I'm going to give you a little update on Jed. Most of you are well aware of Jed. He is a permanent part of our shop. Jed just got out of the hospital 2 days ago after spending 16 days in the hospital in Lancaster, and we're looking forward and hoping that Jed can come back to work here and share his fishing knowledge with the public, which he willingly does, and Jed has a ton of knowledge backed up in his brain. So just to let you know, Jed will be back. We're hoping and hoping that happens very soon. So thank you. Thanks for your support, and keep on fishing, and watch these young people. They're going to lead the next generation. Thank you.